Well, guys, an episode full of answers and revelations, we finally appear to be getting somewhere that is not just retreading Season 1 territory. Hey guys, Cameron for Wayward Pines, Season 2, Episode 5, Sound the Alarm, and I know I was a bit harsh in last week's episode, but honestly, I was ready to give up on this show. I really was. I mean, last week's episode wasn't bad. It just seemed like we really weren't going anywhere. Every episode this season, it's been like, okay, we introduce this character, they get killed off, and that's it. And then we move on to something else, and we really haven't been going anywhere. You know, we've been hearing about things, but we haven't really seen anything. But finally, in this episode, this is how you make an episode of Wayward Pines. This was a great episode. Now, was it a perfect episode? No, but it was a great episode full of some really great revelations and some really great reveals, and pretty much is the equivalent of the Truth episode last year, because that's the episode that revealed pretty much everything. That's kind of like what this episode is. This episode reveals to us things that we didn't know before and really changes a lot of things in the show, just like episode 5 did last year, and that's something that I did really appreciate, and it really does show why this story was necessary, because this was something that I didn't think about this at all, but this really changed a lot of things we find in this episode, and I really did appreciate that. But there was still some bullshit stuff we were dealing with, like Adam and Theresa, which we'll get into. But let's just get into this episode, because there was a lot of great stuff here, some really great flashbacks that really did reveal a lot, and it really does show why we're focusing on the characters we're focusing on this season. And also, this was the first episode that showed we can have these characters stand on their own. They don't need to be, you know, we don't need to incorporate the Season 1 characters to have a great episode, because yes, there were Season 1 characters in this episode, but, you know, a lot of the scenes, they did stand on their own. It really does show that these characters can stand on their own, and we don't just need the Season 1 backstory to, help us, you know, help us tell the story. But let's just get in this episode. We start off in the past. We see in bed Theo kisses Rebecca, and she responds. The alarm goes off. Theo asks Rebecca not to go to work. She said that she has to, and after a moment he moves away. He says that they should go somewhere, and Rebecca wonders if he's serious, and after a moment Rebecca suggests they go to the beach, and Theo says they're going to Hawaii. So we basically get the sense that this is before they went to Hawaii, which of course is where we started this whole season. And Rebecca then arrives at her architecture firm and learns that they're taking her project away from her, and her coworker says that there's a man in his office, and that is none other than David Pilcher. David is right there. Now, we knew that Rebecca had some sort of connection to Wayward Pines, but not to the extent of what we thought was what we find out in this episode, because it really is crazy what we find out here. Basically, he asks if she's heard of her book, and Pilcher wants Rebecca to consider a historic project and says that he'll tell her about it over dinner. And that night, David and Rebecca go to a restaurant. He tells her what matters are the things that last, and he then shows her a copy of her Harvard thesis, and David says that he's impressed by it and figures that she's a fan of Henry Club. And Rebecca talks about the settlement the club built, the Octagon City, and it failed. And David suggests that they try again with a community that gradually grows until it becomes the most significant settlement in the world. He warns that the flood is coming. He wants her to build an ark and says that if someone truly believes in something, that they'll fight for it. David assures Rebecca and that he will pay any price it takes to build the settlement. Asks Rebecca if she would like to take the opportunity to build a legacy beyond compare, and we find out that Rebecca was the one that built Wayward Pines. And yes, it's a little crazy, but it really does make sense. I mean, she clearly wanted change. He wanted change as well. He approached her. She was an architecture, and, you know, she was an architect. That's what she did, and it makes sense why she would build this town. You understand her importance, and you kind of get the sense that Theo was not as important as we think he was. He really seems to only be here because of Rebecca, and I think that's very interesting. It really gives Rebecca a lot more to do. I love seeing that. And who plays Rebecca in the show? Let me see. Who's the actress that plays her? Nimrat Kaur really killed it in all the scenes she was in. She really was awesome here, and it really did make me love her character even more than I did. Not that I didn't like Rebecca already, because I was enjoying her, but here, this gives her a lot more to do, because they're a much bigger purpose than I thought, and that's something that I really enjoy this episode, and that's something that this episode did extremely well. So Frank then watches as the Abbey approach them. That's how, of course, the last episode ended. And in Jason's office, Carrie informs Jason that units are on the way. They wonder why the Abbey isn't attacking, and Carrie tells them that they shouldn't kill, because the Abbey appears to just be standing there. It's not killing him. And soldiers arrive at the merry-go-round. Meanwhile, Carrie points out to Jason that the Abbey is the first female that they've seen. And, you know, they've up to this point, they've seen male Abbies. They didn't think that they could see female Abbies. This is the first one they've seen. So, back in the past, Rebecca shows Theo a layout of her ideal town, so that it's designed for both happiness, and Theo is concerned that it doesn't make sense to him, and warns that they both know the utopia can't exist. You know, it just can't happen. And, yeah, that's true. I mean, when you first saw Wayward Pines, we knew something was off. Even though it seemed perfect, it definitely was not perfect. And Rebecca abruptly abruptly asks her husband to leave her alone so she can work, and you can really start to tell why their relationship got so destructive, because I think Rebecca is the one that seemed like she was a workaholic. She was so focused on what she was doing and her work, and she was so distracted that it seemed like she didn't have any time for Theo, and she kind of just moved on. And it's really sad to see, because you can see these two really were good together, but it really does seem like she just didn't really have time for him, and she was really, you know, trying to focus on her work and everything, and you understand why. It makes sense why she wants to build this town. You understand her passion. I think they definitely showed that very well here. So, back in the present, the next day at the academy, Frank's students tell him that every girl in school is interested in him. Now the rumors are saying that Frank fought an Abby, and Frank sees Lucy, who turns and walks away, ignoring him, and really wants something to do with him. In the lab, Megan then reports to Jason and Carrie that the Abby's been strangely passive since they brought her in, and finally, Megan is doing more than just teaching a class. She actually is doing stuff in this episode, and, you know, we saw her do stuff last week, but that was just her talking and everything. We actually starting to see her do things here, and I like seeing that, because I just haven't really seen the purpose of her character. Yes, I understand that she was the one that wanted to keep Wayward Pines the way it was, but really, what was the point of her, you know, decides to keep on David's legacy? I didn't really know. We find out in this episode as well, but she reveals the new Abby is a design drawn in her hand, and Megan suggests that it's anthropological. Sorry, I couldn't pronounce that word. Jason isn't that, you know, Jason asks, isn't that there are tribal, and Megan says that all the Abbies that breached the fence on Invasion Day were males, and she hopes to find something about the females that will let them kill them once and for all. And after Jason and Carrie leave, a technician says that Margaret is handling things well. He says that he names all the Abbies after people he knew, and yeah, because here's the thing, those Abbies were people once, and now they are people, you know, now they're not people, they're Abbies, and that's the one thing the show's not explaining, is how does one turn into an Abby? I don't really know, because that's something that's, I don't know yet. But Martin then tells Jason that there are no other Abbies were found and the fence is secure. Jason wonders how the Abbies got into Wayward Pines in the first place and suggests that someone helped her get in. He tells Martin to keep working on it, and at the camp, CJ's surveying when Adam comes over. CJ suggests that he help. Adam offers to dig graves. He warns that when the Abbies come, it won't matter whether CJ and his people plan to die or not. CJ finds Theresa, and oh my god, these scenes. Okay, let me just say, like I told you guys last week, Theresa and Adam are the two people that really, I mean, out of all the characters, these are the ones you keep. It's just really annoying, because you kill off Ben, you kill Pam, but you don't kill Theresa and Adam. It doesn't make much sense to me. Now, Theresa, yes, she's, you know, serves a purpose, but really her only purpose so far this season and in this episode is just to cry and be upset about things that have happened in the past, and I really want to see her do more than that. In this episode, it doesn't appear she's doing that, and same with CJ. He doesn't even seem to be doing much either, but basically, CJ finds Theresa, tells him she's not going back to town. He warns that they don't know if the Abbies are truly gone, but Theresa insists that Ben is outside. She's not going to leave her son again, and I like that she's kind of under, you know, this, you know, she's kind of thinking, and she's kind of, you know, has this intuition that Ben might actually be alive, and she says that Adam is the reason that her family is dead. CJ points out that he's also the reason that she's alive, and it's interesting what's going on there. I just don't really care. I really don't. In the midst of this really interesting story, this just seemed like it was there to just add drama, just close her arc, and you know Theresa's gonna die anyway, so there's really serving no purpose, I would say. I really don't think they're doing much with this story, not really going anywhere, and for me, it's the one thing that's really slowing things down. I mean, luckily, there's only about 3 scenes with it. Other than that, I really love this episode, but it's the only thing that kept this episode from being truly perfect, because had this not been the episode, this would have been a perfect episode, but unfortunately, this is still here, and I'm really just waiting for them to go away, because I know they're going to die anyway, and I'm kind of just waiting for them to die as the episodes go on. And let me just say that it's definitely not the actors or the characters. I think Theresa's a very good character. Is she a bit one-dimensional without Ethan? Oh yeah, because Ethan really was the thing that made her character interesting. The dynamic she had with him, and then Ben. Without those characters, she's literally just here to whine. And I did hear people say that there could be a possibility that Ben is back, but I need to see that. I need to see that Ben is back. As of right now, Ben is gone. I'm not going to say that he's not, because it seemed like he died. And especially last week, when Xander, you know, called for Ben, nothing happened. So, we don't know if Ben's alive. You know, some people said they could be pulling a Glenn. If they are, I'd be really pissed. But I just really want her to serve more of a purpose than just to whine about Ben, you know, to just cry about Ben, lament about things that have happened, and actually just move on. I just want to see more happen here, and really not much progression is happening in the story besides that. So back in the past, David takes Rebecca to the site where he plans to build Wayward Pines, and this is so cool to see, just seeing her, you know, basically have the basic layout. How cool was this? I mean, the fact that she was the one that was called upon to build the town. She points out that there's a town already there, David says it won't be for long. He then calls over Megan and the rest of his team, and Megan praises Rebecca's plans. David says they've already started building their base of operations on the other side of the mountain, and it's just really interesting knowing they had this idea, knowing that she was the one in charge of it. Just makes things a lot more compelling, and I really do like that. So back in the present, Jason and two soldiers go into the beauty shop after Jason glances briefly over at Xander as he sweeps in front of his shop. Inside, Jason asks Rebecca if she's sure the fence is impenetrable, and she insists that the fence is under damage and insists that her designs aren't the problem. And switching subject, Jason asks how things are at home, and Rebecca insists they're fine. This episode really also shows why we're seeing these flashbacks in this episode, because obviously Rebecca's designs did not work as well as they thought it would. You know, the fence is not nearly as secure, and he advised her to tell Theo everything, Warren, that's not good to keep secrets, and he leaves, and that she needs to come clean to him. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because she pretty much told him everything, but she didn't tell him, you know, he knew she was constructing the town, he knew she was there before him. What else is there to tell? We'll get to that in a second, because that's really interesting what's going on there. But that night, Xander's making a drink, looks across the street at the beauty shop where the light is still on, and the next day, Frank is assigned to Procreation Room 9, and this scene is just so weird, but it's meant to be weird. But again, just the idea of kids my age being forced to procreate. I mean, yes, teenagers have sex, okay, that's nothing new. Teenagers have sex all the time, you know, I've heard stories, things like that. But just knowing that this is actually a thing, that when you turn, like, 11, you have to go into this procreation room, it's so weird and it's so awkward, and he has no choice but to go in. This girl named Meadows waiting for him. They literally have, like, a board set up for all of these rules and things like that, and it's pretty hilarious. Just looking at that board and seeing that, that's something that Wayward Pines does do well. Dry humor is something that the show exceeds in, and that was meant to be really silly, and they awkwardly get on the bed beneath the covers, finally take their robes off, and they hesitantly kiss. Meadow finally says to forget it and puts on a robe, saying that she figures he doesn't like her, and Frank says they're not a good match. Meadow says that he might not be a good match for anyone, and she'll let them in, and obviously, you know, nothing really is going to happen. Frank's, you know, they're not going to have sex or anything, and again, just a really bizarre scene. Look, it's a cool choice for the show, definitely. I think it's cool what they're trying to do here, but it's just really weird, honestly. And I get that, obviously, you know, they're supposed to be the first generation and things like that, but it just feels very weird that they're supposed to procreate and all this stuff and that this is going on. I mean, we had nothing about this in Season 1. It's just really weird this is here, but I do like that they're staying committed to it. You know, they're not just dropping it because it's not working, because it is a storyline that in many ways is working and really makes Frank a much more interesting character. We'll get into why in a second, because this really goes in a very interesting direction that I didn't think it was going to go. So at the hospital, Arlene is sketching at her desk when Carrie comes in, asks if Theo is in. Arlene says that Theo is busy, they're not accepting new walk-ins, and Carrie points out the new reception room is empty and walks into Theo's office in response to his summons. He says he knows about the Abbie that they caught, and Carrie confirms it's a female and still alive and not unlike others they've seen. And Theo asks who was running the research team because he hasn't met anyone who has the appropriate training, and he figures that they need someone familiar with the protocols and medical ethics, and Carrie says that the old rules should apply. So Theo offers to take charge. Carrie says that she could do so, but he might step on some toes. That doesn't deter Theo, and Carrie says that he should let her know when he's ready, and he goes to the Mound Lab. Megan invites him in to watch as they extract some cerebrospinal fluid. They haven't sedated Margaret because they want to study her pain reflex, because again, they're trying to figure out the difference between Abbies and humans. What is that Abbies have that humans don't? What is it really about him? How does one become an Abbie? And Theo insists that the Abbie isn't to be touched, and I like that the humans don't really know much about the Abbies other than they're obviously, you know, beasts and things like that, but now they're starting to see that they're not really bad, that maybe they actually aren't gonna attack. And when Theo says that he and Carrie have agreed that he would lead the team, Megan asks if Jason knows about it, and Carrie says that Jason's on board, leaves them to work after mentioning that Megan is a hypnotherapist, and Megan insists that she has completed many years of study and research since she was a hypnotherapist. Theo says that he'll be by in the morning to set out a proper series of protocols, and once he leaves, Megan tells the technician to extract the fluid, and Margaret doesn't seem to react. So definitely definitely really weird. I don't know if Margaret's in like some sort of coma or something, or she's in stasis, but really weird the way that was going. Definitely very interesting, and really makes the Abbies definitely a lot more interesting. And I know one of the things that M. Night Shyamalan and the guy who does the show said they want to do is explore the Abbies, and really how are the Abbies different from the humans. And I think that's something we're really starting to get into, and I like the Abbies are not just, you know, oh, they want to take the land. There's a lot more to them, and they're a lot more complex than we ever thought, and that is how you write a show. Definitely it shows that they're not half-assing this, and it really does seem like the season is actually starting, and I really do love that. I think it's very well handled the way they're doing that, and I'm really liking the direction that this is heading, because this is honestly getting really interesting. So back in the past, the team gathers to have dinner, and David congratulates Rebecca on her fine work. He then says the construction of her plans won't take place immediately, and when she wonders how long it'll take, and because, you know, obviously it's not taking place now, David talks about wine growing in perfect soil after massive upheavals, and Megan says the next cataclysmic disaster is coming, and the only way to ensure their survival is to slingshot past the event. And she explains David's plan to save a select group of humanity for 2,000 years in the future, and David hopes that Rebecca will be his partner and collaborate in witnessing the birth of the new world. Rebecca says that she's honored to be a part of it, but is clearly uncertain. You know, she doesn't really know if it's going to work out in the best way, because, you know, while she's hoping this is going to work, she is thinking there are going to be some cracks maybe in the foundation, which we clearly have seen that there are definitely cracks. And Rebecca goes home, she tells Theo that she can, and I loved this scene. Like I said, Nimrat's Cower just killed it in this episode, and really did show, like, just her, you know, dramatic ability. She really is a fantastic actress, and I really love they're giving her a lot of really good stuff to do, because, you know, they're definitely not wasting her talent, and it just makes her so much more interesting than Theresa ever was, because, like I said, Theresa was only interesting because of Ethan and Ben. Rebecca's perfectly interesting on her own. I think that's very well done here. Rebecca goes home, she tells Theo that she can, she asks what he would do if she made a mistake and couldn't find a way out of it, and wishes that she feels like a failure, and Theo tells her to tell them that she's out and he'll protect her, just as the hospital calls him in. And I like he's telling her, look, tell them you're out, tell them this isn't going to work, because she really feels that this isn't going to work, that her work here, you know, it's just not going to work in the way she wants to, and she's ready to quit pretty much. So I thought that was very interesting. So Theresa then tells Adam that she had a dream that Adam and Ben were alive, that Ethan and Ben were alive, and I did like this scene here. I will say I kind of like where this head. She said that there's nothing inside the fence. Adam tells her that she and Ben weren't supposed to follow Ethan, and he had no choice but to follow her there. He wanted Ethan gone. Adam apologizes, walks away, and I would really love to care here. I just don't, because these two characters of everything are just not really that interesting. It's not really going anywhere. There's a lot of repetitive dialogue here of Theresa being like, oh, I wish Ben was here. I wish Ethan was here. I get it that she's going through a lot of pain, but I just want to see her go in a different direction, because right now, it's the least interesting thing going on. It's the only thing keeping me from giving these episodes giving this episode a really solid, a really great grade, because this was a fantastic episode. I love the direction, that this episode went in. It's just this particular plot is not going anywhere, and I really do want to go somewhere other than Theresa's gonna die, because it's kind of dumb that they're not doing anything with it. I want them to do something with it. Shannon Soseman is a very good actress, and I love to see them do more with her than they're giving her. And the guy who plays Adam, I do like that Adam feels bad for what he did, because he clearly was in love with Theresa, and we can tell, and also the fact that he was tracking down Ethan. But what about that whole investigation? Because we know that Ethan, you know, he was investigating what was going on. He was trying to figure out what was happening with that, and I'm just really confused of where they're going with this character. I can't really tell where this is headed. If we're headed where they're going to die together, I don't really know. I'm thinking that's what's going to happen. Either way, just not really a fan of this, and out of everything going on, like I said, it's the least interesting thing that's happening. But luckily, you know, everything else was going on. Then we get some really big revelations in these next two scenes. A lot of stuff I really want to talk about, and that's really what made me love this episode as much as I did. As cool as it was to see Rebecca design Wayward Pines, things like that, you know, show the foundation, everything, the best stuff about this episode comes in these next two scenes, because Frank has a conversation with Theo that he wasn't into procreating with Meadow or any of the other he's been placed with, and he wonders if there's something wrong with him, because everyone else seems to be fine about it, but any of the other girls he's with, he has no reaction, and Theo thinks that he might actually be gay, and Frank has no idea what he's talking about, because apparently gay isn't a word used anymore, we think, and That's very interesting. And a lot of people are saying, oh, this is Rebecca's fault, but really it's not. I mean, she's not the one that made the rules, and Theo assures him that there's nothing wrong for him. The boy asks for some kind of treatment and warns Theo that there are rules. If he's sick and can't procreate, then they'll kill him, and Theo says that he won't let it happen. So basically, it seems that homosexuality is banned, that you can't be a homosexual, and this is a very interesting direction, because, yeah, think about it, we've never had a homosexual character in Wayward Pines, and Frank might be that first homosexual character, but he doesn't even know what gay is. He's never even heard that term before because it's banned. It seems like it's not a thing. And Theo, I like that Theo's not just going to let this happen to him. You know, he's telling him, look, there's nothing wrong with that. If you are gay, then that's just who you are. You can't really change that. And I thought it was a really nice scene. I like the way Theo was accepting of him. I like the way that Theo says you can't really change that. I just really like the conversation overall. And especially if Frank is gay, this would go in a really interesting direction. And especially because I don't think we've heard about this before. You know, we haven't heard that if, you know, homosexuals were banned. We've never heard about that before, and I'm thinking that Frank might be the first one in a while that might actually be homosexual. I think it's a very interesting direction if that is going in. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that's going. But then we get this amazing reveal when Theo goes home. He sees Xander with Rebecca, and Xander tells Rebecca to tell Theo, and we knew, obviously, Jason said, look, you gotta tell Theo the truth, and that's when the big revelation comes out that not only is Xander Rebecca, that she and Xander are actually married, and it's a huge reveal, and it's not too, you know, far-fetched, I think, because it does make sense. Like they've said in the season, when you go Wayward Pines, your life is basically restarted. Everything you had before is done. You start with a clean slate. You know, who you're married to, you're not married to anymore, and she explained that she was kidnapped, put to sleep. When she woke up, Theo wasn't there. They matched people together. Rebecca ended up with Xander for 1 year, and she says they haven't been together for 6 months, and Xander says it wasn't Rebecca's fault. Theo glares at him, removes his wedding ring, and he can't believe that she hid this from him. I mean, even though he knows it was only 6 months, the fact that she hid this from him, I mean, he just feels so hurt, and he punches Xander, walks out, and I think Theo in general, he just feels like he doesn't have a purpose there. He feels like his purpose is only to be a doctor, and he wants to be Rebecca. He wants things to work out with her. But the fact that she hid this from him, I mean, he's really pissed about it. And Jason Patrick just really killed in that scene. Just so much subtle acting in that scene. Just him punching Xander, just the look in his face, taking off the wedding ring. Such a well-done scene. I love the way that was done. And that revelation, I never could thought of that happening. You know, I thought Xander was just going to be a very one-dimensional character. There's the bartender there, things like that. But I love that now we know why he's really there. Why have we been seeing Xander so much? Because he's Rebecca's husband, is a fantastic twist. I love where that's going, and this really changes everything. The fact that Theo now knows Rebecca's married, you can tell the girl he wants to be with, he can't be with, and it is kind of like what happened with Kate to Ethan, but he was with Theresa in that sense. Theo doesn't have anyone besides Rebecca, and he still kind of feels like an outsider here, even though he's getting answers. He still feels like an outsider, and the fact that she kept this from him, I understand why she had to keep this from him, but obviously it was something that she probably could have kept from, she probably shouldn't have kept from him, and it really ruined, I think, a lot of how the relationship could have ever been. So, really sad. I really did feel bad for Theo in that sense, and I really think it added to how much I really loved his character, because I already really like Theo as a character, and I love what they did with him, but that made me love that storyline even more, and they really did a great job with really propelling that storyline forward, and really showing where this is really head, because that is very interesting, especially if Theo's going to walk out of Rebecca's life and try to go on his own. I mean, that's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. I can't wait to see what happens with that, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where that's at, because that was an incredible twist, and I love the way that was done. So Frank then finds Lucy on the academy roof. She asks if he ever wonders what's out in the rest of the world. He does. Lucy says that sometimes she dreams of a place where people don't tell them what to do with their lives, because, yeah, this is a very totalitarian society. This is a government-controlled world. You know, they tell you what to do. You can't really say no, and especially for the kids, they've been told what to do all their lives, and they haven't really been able to say no, and Frank says he's having a hard time, and Lucy promises she'll protect him, and I don't know if we knew this before, but Frank and Lucy are brother and sister. I don't think we knew that, and I like that reveal. I like the bond that these two have, and I suddenly really like this procreation storyline. I thought it was weird at first, but now I like it because it's really trying to show it's not about just, oh, kids having sex. It's about how this is a world where people don't really have a choice. You know, they're told to do things, and they must do them, and they must obey into those commands, and these two want to defy that system, and I'm really wondering, you know, I'm thinking by the end of the season, that system will be corrupted, and that system is going to be over, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to go, because I definitely think by the end of the season, that system system will be no more. So at the lab, Megan visits the restrained Margaret, says that there aren't any more tests, and she figures that they'll both see what surprises Theo has in store for them the next morning. Megan says they both were never supposed to meet because David thought the Abbies would be gone by the time they woke up, and she describes how she woke up after she was attacked by the Abbies and left for dead, and her husband tried to put her back together before he died, and Megan misses him, and of course, that explains how Megan got back, because we know, of course, Megan was attacked by the Abbies, but now it makes sense, obviously, that her husband died, and, you know, she was put in the wheelchair, and she wonders why she's talking to the Abbies because it's just an animal, and with that, Megan wheels away, and honestly, I feel really bad for her, because now it makes sense why she feels pointless here, because that's kind of the point. Megan does feel pointless on her own. She doesn't really know what she's doing here, you know, she's kind of just doing what they told her to do, and at the Harvester camp, Adam then finds Theresa sitting by the fire, so that she was remembering how Ben was born, smacking her in the cheek, crying. Theresa says she can't stop thinking of her son. Adam tells her that he knows that Theresa came out because she wants to die, and it's sad, but again, it just seems like the necessary direction for her. I don't really care, and he knows because he felt the same way. He's made peace with it. Adam just wants Theresa to forgive her. She says she can talk to him, but she'll never forgive him, and I just, again, this isn't going anywhere, and I want to go somewhere, and it's not really going anywhere, and I really just want this to go somewhere, just anywhere, just go somewhere, stop with Theresa, just, you know, begging and pleading for Ben to come back, take it somewhere that's not here, and I'll be fine with that, because it's not going anywhere, and I want to go somewhere, especially when they're saying, I'll never forgive you. I mean, it just shows that this plot really, they're really trying to drag this out, and it's not interesting, really, at all. I really just want us to go somewhere. I think these two could have a lot of potential in the show, but just do something that's not just them wandering around in, you know, outside, just, you know, with Theresa crying, oh my god, my son, just stop lamenting, and move on, go to something else, you know, get your own life, and then I'll be better with this plot, because right now, this is just, it's slow as molasses, it slows down the show, and anytime it's on, I almost fall asleep, you know, I'm not gonna lie, these scenes are really boring. I mean, these two are very good actors and actresses, so it's enough to keep me interested, but just in general, I want them to give them more something to do, because they're not. So Theo returns home, finds Rebecca sleeping on the couch, looks at her for a moment, and then grabs his things and leaves. And he just takes a second and remembers, I think, the life he could have had, but now it just doesn't, he doesn't feel like he belongs there anymore. He leaves, and it's really sad. Then we see a flashback which basically shows how Xander and Rebecca met. Xander offers Rebecca a glass of water, introduces himself. He said that he needs her to come with him and offers his hand. And once Rebecca accepts, Xander drives her through town, says that it'll all make sense soon. He looks at the building, says it's beautiful. Rebecca says that it isn't, and this is basically, we think, how Rebecca came to Wayward Pines and how she got there, because we know she constructed it, and it's clear that the town was not at all what she wanted to be. You know, she thought it was going to be way different, and it wasn't at all what she wanted. But then we go to the present. Hundreds of Abbies approach the crops with burned torches. In the lab, the male Abbies snarl. The Abbies outside the fence throw their torches into the crops. Margaret stares off into space, and the Abbies in the field stop and stare off into space. We don't know what's going on there, but that's the way the episode ends. Like I said, finally this is going somewhere. I'm very happy it's going somewhere. That is how we end this episode. Crazy stuff overall. So many revelations and so much to talk about, but let's just talk about it. So really, I think a very revealing episode and a lot really going on. This is what Wayward Pines needs to do every single week. This felt like a Season 1 episode, and it was awesome. I loved having that Season 1 feel, because Season 1 really was great. Now that the season hasn't been great, it's just been a lot of setup, and finally it seems we're going somewhere. And now that we have these reveals, we can really go a lot of places, especially in this direction of Rebecca with Xander. What does this really do for Theo? What's he going to do? Is he going to be able to move on from Rebecca? Is he going to try to change things? I'm not really sure. I mean, I think it's more the fact that Rebecca didn't tell him, and that's really what was going on, because he already knew that she was under a lot of pressure, and she was under a lot of stress, and he wanted answers, and she wasn't giving them to him, and he thought he had all the answers, and then he didn't, and obviously he feels really betrayed. He's now left her. It's a bit of an abrupt decision, but I'm looking forward to seeing where that's going, where Theo's gonna go. That's gonna be really interesting. Is he gonna meet up with Adam and Theresa possibly? I hope he does, because I just want them to go somewhere. It's not going anywhere. I want to go somewhere, and right now they serve really no purpose on the show whatsoever. What's going on with the Abbies? I like that the humans don't understand really how the Abbies work, how they function, what's really going on with them. That's something that we have yet to know, and I'm looking forward to seeing really what's going on there. How do they work? What is it about the Abbies that separates them from humans? That's something we don't know yet, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on with that, because that overall I find very interesting. Is Frank gay? Again, it seems like gay isn't a thing in this society, and that, you know, basically homosexuality is banned. So could Frank be gay? I mean, that's just going to be very interesting to see if that goes. goes, and especially if they end up killing him, is Theo going to be able to stop that? Because I feel like they're going to try to put an end to this system of them having to do things without, you know, wanting to, and them getting to make their own decisions. That's something that they don't get to do in this world, and that's something I think Theo's going to try to put a stop to. He's going to try to end it, and I think that really is where we're headed for the final 5 episodes this season. I can't wait to see where that goes. That's going to be very interesting. I like the reveal with Megan as well, that she was just kind of put here by her husband without her husband, and now she has to basically continue the world without her husband, and she doesn't really know what to do. That's really interesting as well. I like seeing that. And then as far as the whole, you know, Abby situation goes, what's going on with Margaret, really what's the difference between male and female Abbies, what's the difference between Abby and humans? It's something I'm really looking forward to, seeing where that's going. And I like these flashbacks with Rebecca, that she constructed the entire town, that the town was not at all what she wanted to be. And I'm thinking that if she created, she's going to be the one to destroy it. She has to destroy this town. She has to, you know, basically restart it. And I feel like definitely, reforming the town is definitely going to be the direction for the end of the season. I feel like that definitely is going to happen. The town's going to have to start over. That might have to result in killing some people. I'm not really sure. But now it makes sense why David, I think, you know, went so quickly to those very irrational measures that he did at the end of last season, you know, where the lights went, where the power went out and the Abbey set off. I think that was all Rebecca's decision. I think Rebecca was panicking and thinking, oh, this wasn't going to work, and that's why he decided to do it. I mean, yes, the town was already built, but I'm thinking that moment, Rebecca didn't really know what was going on. I'm hoping we see more flashbacks, though, because I want to see what was going on at this point in season 1. Where was Rebecca then? What was going on with her? It's just a really interesting story. It really adds so much to her character, and I like that they did that, and I really do want to see more where that's headed. Overall, guys, this is exactly what Wayward Pines needs to be every week. I absolutely love this episode. Best episode of season by far. I'm sure they can top this episode, but let me know what you guys saw this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for a classic review. I meant to watch one today. I kept falling asleep, but I will finally watch it tomorrow, and I will review it for you guys, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.